Would you like to come out and see us? Come break your heart and put it back again. Or would you like to answer the questions of what we're wrong with women and men? Do you think that you could ever put it on the line? Do you think that you could even spare the time?
When a friend of mine asked me to do this video taping of these things, I was like, no way. But one of the reasons that I was convinced to do it was about this subject. If you ask me, the number one thing that I was amazed at through my whole life, or really through the last 13 years with the university students, is what has brought the most transformation, what has really affected and brought change more than any single thing. It shoots me back to a story maybe 12 years ago of meeting with this freshman girl and her telling me the story of her relationship she had with a boyfriend in high school. This girl was gifted. She was a strong young woman. She was amazing. She had a great mind, incredible personality, but I could just tell she was walled up and she really struggled. And as we talked, she kind of revealed that she had a bad relationship in high school and it really affected her. We had a conversation about forgiveness and reconciliation, and I told her forgiveness is today, and we began to talk about it, and we prayed and she forgave her boyfriend, and I told her healing takes a while and it might take a while, and we can talk about whether or not you want to go to him personally and forgive him or not, but today's today. Let's forgive him and let's move on. And a few months later, after spring break, she calls me back and we had a coffee and I talked to her, and she said that she had gone to her boyfriend and brought this up, and she said she was crazy nervous. And before she says she could get it out of her mouth, this young man says, "Hey, before you say anything, I wanted to tell you I'm sorry for the way I treated you in high school. I took advantage of you and it was unhealthy, and I apologize." Well, what was interesting about this, which was great, and that doesn't always happen. You can forgive someone and never reconcile with them, and some things we get hurt from, it's going to take a lifetime. But what was fascinating is to watch this girl's walls go down. She became one of the best leaders over the next 4 years I've ever seen. She began to care for people in a spectacular way. And I watched her live in the freedom of Christ had forgiven her, and she was going to practice that forgiveness. I think so many times we love that he forgave us once and for all, and he did. And he keeps no record of our wrongs, no account. But we don't practice forgiveness. And I have seen year after year how the power of practicing this forgiveness is changing and transforming, and really caused incredible growth in the students I was at. My favorite story of forgiveness is the legendary one of Corrie ten Boom, who's in one of the concentration camps, and she was speaking back in Germany, a place she never wanted to return to. And after she had spoken in this small church, this man comes up to her and puts his hand out, and it was the man who had been a part of her sister's death and rape and her whole family's death. And he said, "Fraulein, I forgive you. Will you forgive me?" is what she said. And she said she didn't even have the faith to raise her hand, that God had to give her that faith. And I think she was on to something, that we need the courage from God to forgive people many times. But he's calling us to that. She said, if I didn't forgive him at this point, I knew I could never speak the gospel again. And I have watched students who have parents who struggle with alcohol, parents who deserted them and had no relationship with, and so many fathers that weren't connected, or mothers, or like I said, even forgiving themselves is such a powerful thing. And God has called us to what he says is the ministry, as Paul says, the ministry of reconciliation in 1 Corinthians. And this is, I think, our highest calling. Our highest calling is to give glory to the Lord. But on a practical day-to-day, are we willing to ask forgiveness, to lead out of that, and to lead on our ministry teams where we're the first to apologize to someone on our team? Well, of course, I began to experience this in a major way with students, and I'll begin to speak this more and more. And well, sure enough, my God called me to do this with my wife and kids. And the more I've led at the house in asking forgiveness and being honest, the more I've seen my wife respond and lead out of forgiveness, and to watch my boys and Teresa forgive one another often, and it's been a beautiful thing, and it's kept our family from being bitter towards one another and to be reconciled to one another. I have watched this with students and the power of this. I remember asking one of my small groups, why don't y'all write down 5 things you love about your mom and 5 things you love about your dad and send it to them? And I remember how hard that was for them, and many of them said, I've never done anything like that, just even said positive things. And it really helped me begin to dig into the forgiveness and the reality in which that we need to play out with people. But I will tell you, I've seen this incredible growth and movement of God through this practical reconciliation. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Give and it will be given to you. I mentioned this before, but I really have to tell you that I think in many ways this is a black and white, and Jesus is making this clear to us. How can we ask for his grand forgiveness and not forgive one another? It doesn't mean that they didn't hurt us. The truth is, the reason we're forgiving someone or asking forgiveness is because we've hurt someone and they hurt us. And that is the beauty. And this is God is trying to bring this world and reconcile not just him to us, but us to one another and to his creation. And so in the most powerful ways and the most urging I could ever give you is to begin to practice forgiveness. And it will be difficult. Apologizing to a 20-year-old who is telling me they know more than I do at 50 is sometimes a very humbling thing. Apologizing to my wife, apologizing when I didn't feel I was that wrong and this person's the one that really initiated a lot of the pain is difficult. But I've seen year after year God honor us humbling ourselves and offering our forgiveness and our grace and mercy to people. So in the power of the risen Christ and the power of our forgiveness that we've received, I call you to humbly practice this wonderful, unbelievable calling of being reconciled to people and enjoying the favor of God as he meets you there and he gives us compassion for other people through it. So, bless you.